For more great retail real estate content, like, share, and subscribe.
All right, let's talk about build out and construction and what you can do to keep your build out budget reasonable. So, as you know, the cost of build out in a retail space is oftentimes the largest single budget line item. And that's just because construction's expensive and turning a space from what it looks like now into what you want it to be can be a really costly endeavor. But there are some things that you can do to try to keep these costs down and to manage things so that your costs that you actually end up spending are as close to your budget as possible. So I'm going to give you 3 sort of low-hanging fruit tips on things that are within your control. The first one is your budget. You really want to communicate your build out budget to your architect and the designers right from the get-go when you're working with them. You probably have a budget, and so that means that you have a sense of how much you can spend on the construction. If you tell this amount to your architect and designer before they start designing, it's going to be a lot more efficient for them to design you a space that's going to work with your construction budget. It can be awkward to talk about money, but it's way better to be upfront with how much you can spend than to have them design some beautiful space that you're going to love the way it looks, but then you don't have the money to actually make it happen. That's a lot more awkward than just being open about what you have to spend from the get-go. So definitely communicate about your budget. The second piece is to get competing bids from general contractors. So all GCs are working from essentially the same framework, which is the cost of materials, the cost of labor, overhead, and profit. But every general contractor works with different subcontractors. So there can be savings hidden that you just aren't going to know about until you see them compared to one another. Now, a couple notes here. One, if you get a bid back and it's either really, really high or really, really low, you want to dig in and find what is causing that, because it could be that there's a misunderstanding about your plans that you really want to know what it is to make sure that whoever you end up hiring is going to be building according to the plans that you actually want. So use any outliers to inform your overall decision about who you pick. The second piece is the least expensive bid that you get is not necessarily the way to go. You want to make sure that that general contractor is quoting your job properly, that they're scoping the job appropriately, and you want to make sure that they are reputable and they're going to do good work. Because there's nothing worse than realizing that they made a mistake in bidding the job and you're going to have to pay for it later, or that the workmanship quality is low and then you're just going to also end up paying for it later. So the cheapest is not always the least expensive. You've got to dig in a little more, but getting comparative bids can really help you find some cost savings. The third piece is about change orders. Once the job has started, any changes that you make in the field are going to be memorialized in change orders. This is where you're agreeing to pay for the additional cost. Now, these happen when there has been some sort of mistake or a change that you're making in the field. Some of these things are unavoidable, but you can catch a lot of these things if you review your plans thoroughly before contractors even see them to bid. This means that you've got to look at the architectural plans and really get comfortable with them and check things to make sure that the plans are matching your expectations. Are there the right number of bathrooms? Are the ceiling heights the right height? Are the counter heights right? Are windows where they're supposed to be? Anything major that you can catch before the plans go to permit and the contractors start bidding on the work, the cheaper it is. It's much easier to change things on paper than it is once people have mobilized. So the other piece about that is that you really want to manage the project, because once the project gets going, if you can catch something that seems to be going awry sooner rather than later, it's a lot easier to fix things before walls are boarded up and paint's on the walls. So you want to make sure you're managing the project either yourself or with the project manager so that you are avoiding any change orders in the field and minimizing any costs of any changes that happen. Because anything that happens once the job is started oftentimes has additional sort of admin charges on top of that, which is just money that you don't need to spend. So hopefully these are some helpful tips to help keep your budget in line.